It's time for an optimized email environment. Augmented reality and navigation services with a large display. A full web browsing experience. E-reading solutions.
Back from here, there are three primary strategies, and these are as follows. Number 1, as shown in the first video, leading capacity strategies. This is the best option for future demand anticipation, and the best example is that of Mitsubishi's Philippines vision of striving to create a low-carbon, recycling-based society as part of the Environmental Vision 2021 program. The company made it sure that their products would be environmental friendly. Second, following strategy as shown in the second video. Quick decision when demand exceeds current capacity. For example, Samsung recently debuted a 10.1-inch model to compete with Apple's iPhone. This simply shows that Samsung produced the said device just to compete with that of Apple's, as is it known that they only produce 7-inch screen pads. And third, as tackled in the third video, tracking strategy. It is a slower version of following strategy, for it keeps the growing demand, and as an example is that of LG's strategy in making its Android Optimus pad. It measures 8.9-inch, which size is indeed an interesting balance between the 7-inch and 10-inch form factors we've seen in Apple and that of Samsung pads. Since they noticed the increasing demand for Android pads, they materialized the project with optimal balance between portability and productivity. Next, we have the steps in estimating capacity process. This will entail the determination of future capacity requirements of an organization. First, evaluate existing capacity and facilities and identify gaps. In this step, evaluation of existing capacity occurs within the production unit, and alongside, it is the naming of additional capacity and facilities to identify the gaps between the olds and the new. Second, identify the alternatives for meeting requirements. Third, conduct financial analysis of each alternatives. Fourth, assess key qualitative issues for each alternative. Weighing of alternatives takes place in this step. There will be assessment of prime qualitative determinants that would set apart each alternative from each other. Fifth, select the alternative to pursue that will be best in the long term. After weighing process, selection will occur and the best alternative among the others will be chosen. Sixth, implement the selected alternative. Seventh, monitor results. The management will evaluate the results of execution of the capacity process and see to monitor it all throughout. That ends Marie Part in our group report, and my partner, Ms. Marinel Biscocho, will continue discussing some of the topics.
I will continue discussing Chapter 5. While the foregoing discussion relates generally to capacity planning for both goods and services, it is important to note that capacity planning for services can present special challenges due to the nature of the services. Three important factors in planning service capacity are: first, the need to be near customers. Services must be located near the customers because they tend to seek further convenience. Thus, in a tourist spot like Boracay and Palawan, hotel rooms must be near the beach for the convenience of the visitors. Having a vacant room in some cities won't help. Second, the inability to store services. Unlike goods, services cannot be stored for use in later periods. Thus, an unsold seat in an airplane or bus cannot be stored for use for the later trip. Similarly, inventories of goods allow the customer to immediately satisfy wants, whereas a customer who wants a service must have to wait. Thus, speed of delivery or customers' waiting time becomes a major concern in service capacity. For example, in a fast food chain like Jollibee, deciding of how many crews would be in a duty in a given time can affect the speed of response if there are so many customers and fewer crews. And last, the degree of volatility of demand. The fact that services cannot be stored means service system cannot turn to inventory to smooth demand requirements, like the good producing systems are able to. For example, to cope with the peak demand periods, planners might consider hiring extra workers or using pricing and promotion to shift some demand to slower periods. Once capacity requirements have been determined, the organization must decide whether to produce a good or provide a service itself, or to outsource it from another organization. Many organizations buy parts of or contract out services for a variety of reasons. Among those factors are: 1. Available capacity. If an organization has available equipment, necessary skills, and time, it often makes sense to produce an item or perform service in-house because the additional costs will be relatively small compared with those required to buy items or subcontract services. For example, Toyota manufactures their own cars because they have an available capacity. Buying or importing cars that they could sell means that you have to pay for additional costs like transportation expenses. 2. Expertise. If a firm lacks the expertise to do the job satisfactorily, buying might be a reasonable alternative. For example, Toyota cannot manufacture their own tires that they will use in their cars because their expertise is only to assemble a car. That's why they just decided to buy tires from other companies whose expertise is to make one. Third, quality consideration. Firms that specialize in item can usually offer high quality than an organization producing its own. For example, Toyota made an agreement with a computer company who specializes to produce high-quality gadgets to manufacture a built-in computer or television that they will use in their cars. Fourth, the nature of demand. When the demand for an item is high and steady, the organization is often better off doing the work itself so that they can easily produce what has been needed by the customer. Fifth, costs. Cost saving might come from the item itself or from transportation cost savings. However, outsourcing may help a firm avoid incurring fixed costs. For example, Toyota can avoid incurring fixed costs like salaries based on hourly wages if they just buy parts of their car from other firms. And last, the risks. Buying goods or services may entail considerable risks. Loss of direct control over operations, knowledge sharing, and the possible need to disclose proprietary information is 3 risks.